Okay, welcome everybody. We're going to go ahead and get started today. I'd like to call the meeting to order. Remind everybody that this meeting is being webcast, so just to let everyone know. This is the state's 911 Advisory Board meeting, and we are now come to order. I'd like to, I already did that. Start with roll call. Scott Silsby.
Scott Howland in his place.
Charles Burdan.
Here.
And I should have said Chief Silsby, sorry. Chief Spiegel.
Here.
Chief Langston.
Here.
Sheriff Bonner.
Tracy Kessler for Sheriff Bonner.
Thank you. Sheriff Maley. He's the one we're waiting for, so hopefully he'll join us. Chief Charneck.
Here.
Leslie Wilson. Absent. Jamie Young. Here. And Charles Cohen.
Here.
Thank you. Everyone, we have a quorum, so we will go ahead and get started. We're going to start our meeting with the closed session. So do I have a motion to review the outage report?
So moved.
Second? Second. All in favor to start the closed session?
Aye.
And just for the record, the 911 Advisory Board meeting specifies specifics regarding the outage will now convene in closed session. And this is pursuant to Bagley-King Act in Government Code Section 11126, subsection C, 18A. So we will start our closed session. Okay, I'd like to call the meeting back to order. The first order of business is to approve the May 2014 meeting minutes. Are there any corrections, additions to the minutes by the board? Do I have a motion to approve the minutes as written?
Motion to approve, Spiegel.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. The minutes from the May 2014 meeting are approved as written. We're going to now move on to unfinished business, and we'll start with our legislative update, and that's a discussion with the board. Does anyone have anything to discuss regarding the legislation?
As far as 1717 goes, I'm going to defer to Chuck Burdan. I've been out of state and
well, I think the yes, AB 1717 is probably the issue we've been following the closest. And at this point, the status of that bill is that it is headed for the assembly floor. It has been approved through all the committees. There is some proposed language amendments being proposed by the PUC, but those have not been adopted by the author yet. So I think before it hits the floor, it'll probably be amended one more time. At this point, it still guarantees the Setna fund to be funded at $9.9 million per year minimum. And they did add in the July amendments a sunset clause to have this sunset in 2020.
And is that the entire bill or just the Setna guarantee?
That's the entire bill.
And while that funding is guaranteed, I would strongly encourage your members to go do the math, because we're collecting Setna right now for 1 cent on the dollar, and this is going to significantly increase the cost to the Setna fund as far as the costs of maintaining that, regardless of the guarantee. So I'm hopeful that as the amendments go forward, that it goes back to what we had proposed in the very beginning, and that was to remove Setna completely from the bill and work on the very issue that started the interest in this, and that was to correct the concerns with the ability of local government to collect its utility user fees. But we shall see.
I think the chief is exactly right. If we could get Setna out of it completely so that we continue in the current collection process, we don't set up a separate sort of bureaucracy, for lack of a better word, to collect that money, and just leave it, solve the utilities problem, and leave Setna alone. And we'll deal with Setna hopefully here in the next year or two to get it on sound financial footing. So.
Is there any other legislative discussion?
Was there, Chuck, did you have an update on Senator Padilla's SB 1211?
SB 1211 is also passed through Appropriations Committee, so it is headed for the Senate floor for a vote. There hasn't been no opposition to it.
All right. And Karen, as I understand, your office has been in consultation with the Senator's office on this, because this bill primarily requests the reporting of the status of our Setna fund, and more importantly to the needs for Next Gen 911. So to me, and this is my layman language of it, it appeared to be a springboard of legislation laying a foundation to look at what needs to be done to fund Next Gen 911. Is that a good descriptor of it?
It's, I mean, we'd have to go back and, talk to the senator on the actual intent, but it's a descriptor, and the fact that we would be reporting on where we're at isn't far different than what we do now. So it provides information for everyone to know where we're at with the Setna and where we're moving to Next Gen. Okay, any other comments on legislation? Okay, we will move to the next agenda item, which is wireless routing. And that, I want to ask the board if we want to defer, unless you have some comments now, but we do have a representative from the FCC here today, and wireless routing is one of the items that will be discussed. So do you want to speak about it now, or do you want to just defer?
I had a couple of questions that Leslie Wilson sent me that are, if I can find them here. Her first question is there anything we can do to support the state in having a way to make sure the vendors and the accuracy of wireless 911 routing is not getting less accurate? Is there a report, and did the RED project provide this information in the past?
I'm going to look toward Bill, but I'm going to answer, so if you need to elaborate some more, please jump in. The RED report did not necessarily provide this information. However, our ECAT system, we are able to pull reports off of that, and we pulled the reports, I want to say 6 months ago.
On routing itself?
Phase 1, Phase 2.
On Phase 2, we pull reports on a regular basis and look at how Phase 1 and Phase 2 are occurring in California. It's information we provide to the FCC on a regular basis and have been for some time now. Statistics have stayed about the same. Wireless Phase 2 in California right now is about 48%, and Phase 1 is about 52%. And it is staying pretty consistent at this point in time. It's decreased over the past few years and kind of holding right now.
And I know that that's one of the issues that was brought to the FCC is the accuracy. And I think there's some. It may be the way we talk about it. I think that wireless routing in the state is accurate. The better question, is it appropriate? Is it going to the appropriate PSAP? And that's not something that the state really controls. And I think that's between the PSAPs and the CHP and their decision on whether or not to take it.
Correct, and that's kind of a different issue. And it also is, the complexity of that issue is based on the number of cell towers that continue to go up in California.
Yes, and I think that I know certainly in the South Bay and Silicon Valley, we have towers that go up all the time. I'm not sure we're always notified of those towers by the carriers. It may go through your office. I don't know how many of those you get. We used to get notified. Yeah. Probably 4 or 5 years ago, and then we would work with the CHP to figure out whether it was appropriate for us to take it or for the CHP to take it. I haven't seen one of those in several years. Mm-hmm.
I
don't remember seeing notices.
No, we don't. The carriers don't provide us information when they put up a new tower. It's not information we track. It's just because they get put up and taken down so much, trying to track that would be a very difficult thing to do.
So I guess the question is, when they put these towers up, are they just arbitrarily deciding which PSAP to route them to? Because they're not.
Well, it goes through the county coordinator on routing when
okay.
they do come up. So they get the appropriate cell sectors attached to the correct ESN and PSAP.
Okay, I'll check with our county coordinator to see what the status is on those.
Yeah, I did talk to Leslie before this, and she'd asked the same information on the routing. And it had to do, of course, with the number of busies, and that's decreased quite a bit, mainly due to the RED project. But the routing has nothing to do with the location information that we are looking for better accuracy from the carriers. that's obviously going to be needed as we push forward to next gen. And even right now, it's displaying phase 2 information to the PSAP when it comes in. But as far as the routing goes, that really has to do as looking at making sure where that call occurs within in cell sector, it gets to the appropriate PSAP.
So I
Thanks.
guess we can kind of all agree that we have two different issues. One,
Yes.
phase 1, phase 2 routing, and the second one is the number of cell towers that continue to come up in California, and our need to make sure that they're being directed to the correct PSAP.
Yeah.
Whether it be CHP or the local, that has to be a decision between the local and CHP.
Yeah. And we do have a project, the MISROP project going on right now. We're in cooperation with PSN to review from the technical side to make sure those towers are appropriately identified and going to the correct location. So it is an ongoing process we are looking at.
Yeah, there was some anecdotal information that we wanted to validate that there were some technical issues with just putting the number of towers up and making sure that the information was accurate from the carriers.
Thank you.
We're validating that. It's
Okay.
probably way more information than you wanted, but
No,
there
that's
it is.
good. Thank you.
If I can, though, we keep referring back, and maybe it's just optics of it, but it seems that the data from the red project isn't there, or we haven't seen it. And if there's lessons to be learned from that project, I think it's beneficial to all of us, because that's what it was supposed to be, was a demonstration project. I think it would be instructive for us to be able to review what the project reported out, and if it didn't, certainly the data should be there. I'd like to see what the location accuracy was with the red project.
we have all that information. In fact, I say I believe because we're having some work done on our website. It was there. We have those reports. We published a report on all phases of the red project.
I've been thinking a lot about this issue. Is it possible to perhaps have the working group convene a study session on it, so people that aren't real apprised on the issue can be brought up to date where we're at, and then what the next steps are that we need to do? Because I think that one of the bigger concerns is whether or not we all know what the data is, and whether or not we're prepared to move forward, particularly as text becomes a realization. So is that something that the working group can do, is perhaps have a subcommittee or a study session?
I really appreciate that suggestion, but I've been so happy with the work group's products that they've been producing. I think it's a good thing to do. But I'm kind of like looking toward the work group to kind of say, yes, we want to take this on, or no, our plates are full right now, but we'll do that soon. Because I know we've pushed a lot of stuff over to the working group.
And would you see the LRPC doing that, or the policy and the policy committee that we set up?
I see the LRPC setting up a separate work group specifically for this.
I think we'd be willing to do that.
Okay. And I don't believe I need a motion to do that. I think this is just yet another assignment going over to the LRPC.
We'll add it to the stack.
And I just want to take just this 1 minute. The LRPC, again, has just been excellent in supporting the PSAPs and the board and the 911 office, so we appreciate that. Okay, the next item for unfinished business is the FCC's annual information collection. So, Bill?
Yes, thank you. At the last board meeting, the annual report to the FCC on spending for 911 was addressed. It really came out of a change in comment made on question number 9 of the 14-question survey in regards to identifying the amounts collected for 911 and what the purposes were. In that, we had identified that all funds collected for 911 were spent on 911. In previous years, because of the CAL FIRE appropriation through the CETNA, it was questions whether or not those should be considered as appropriate funds for the use of 911, whether they're direct or indirectly. We recently submitted the new Net 911 to the FCC in July, and we did modify the language on question number 9. And that language now states that all funds were used for 911 with the exception of the CAL FIRE funding, that it was used for CAD equipment. So it was modified back to the way the old language used to be. The next question that did come up was who makes the decision on how funding is spent, whether it is us or whether it's the FCC. In contact with the FCC, it's really up to the state to determine how appropriate funding is spent on 911 within the state. So it really relies on the state as far as funding. Questions?
Okay, with no questions, we'll move on to the next item, which is an update from the California First Responder Network Board of Directors and FirstNet. Greg Hamilton? And this was at the request of the board, so this will be a standing agenda item.
All right, good morning. I'm Greg Hamilton with SAIC, and SAIC is providing consultation support to Karen Wong and Cal OES on this project. So if you remember back in May, my boss, actually Mike Boyden, addressed and kind of brought you folks up to speed on what this project was all about. So this is just an update for you, what we've done since then. First thing we should probably tell you is we've branded this project and this initiative as FirstNet in California. So that's the way we're referring to it as we move forward, and hopefully you'll see that quite often, that name. So what I'm going to talk to you today about is just, again, quickly talk about our plans, progress, upcoming events, and just looking ahead, just to make sure you guys are up to speed on how we're doing. So we're in the education and outreach phase of the project. And if you remember back in May when Mike briefed you, we're talking about waves of education and outreach. And let me just go all the way through here. We are in the first wave. We are cresting, I would say, if you want to know where we are in on this graphic. We'll get through this first wave sometime this fall, and then we regroup and we get together and we put planning refresh together, and then we start the next wave. So the schedule has been. This was what the schedule currently looks like, and it's been expedited from the last time we talked to you folks. We've already held 2 town halls in Lakeport and Bakersfield, and we have 2 more scheduled for September. So originally we were going to plan those out through the end of the year, but again, we've expedited the schedule, kind of crashed it to try to get these 4 town halls in as quickly as we can. So those are the 4 town halls, 1 in July, 1 in August, and then 2 the last week of September. We're going to get to Fairfield and Santa Ana. The other thing that's coming right around the corner is OEC workshop, and that's actually next Tuesday here in Rancho Cordova. And we're inviting first responders from across the state to come in and just discuss needs and where we're going. And this is in preparation for the FirstNet folks to come out later this year, hopefully, and as part of their consultation with the state. So again, next Tuesday, 9 o'clock, this starts. Hopefully we'll see a lot of the folks here in this room at that workshop. CalFriend board meeting's the first point on the agenda, and then we'll move into the workshop. Other things we've done is we've documented our whole town hall process. We've got 2 under our belts, so we've learned a lot. And as we're going through it, we're putting new material together. This graphic here on the right, this is FirstNet by the numbers, something that SAIC actually did for the state of Oregon that a lot of the states have adopted and actually the national organization FirstNet has adopted this also, and we changed the bottom. What's going on? This is state-specific information. Otherwise, this is a really good graphical depiction of what FirstNet's all about and the roadmap forward. Upcoming events. This is what we've just, okay. So in Lakeport, we had about 50 people show up to the town hall. In Bakersfield, it was almost 60. As the word gets out, I think we're going to see participation increase. We've also decided to have a theme at each of our town halls. The first one in Lakeport was just a general theme. In Bakersfield, it was focused on fire and fire responders. Coming up in Fairfield, it's going to be based on EMS, and then down in Santa Ana, it'll be law enforcement will be the focus. In addition to the town halls, we're doing conferences and meetings. Just this month, we've met down with San Bernardino County Operational Area Coordinating Council in Rancho Cucamonga. One of our Southern California engineers briefed those folks. And then just last week, Mike Boyden and Hector, who's back here, went to the NAPCO conference in Fairfield and briefed, or in Vacaville, and briefed those folks. Here are the two we've just that are coming up. Again, the focus next week, or in Fairfield, will be on EMS, telemedicine, and then we'll focus on law enforcement in Santa Ana. That doesn't mean we ignore all the other the focus, but that is we're trying to get EMS folks interested to come to Fairfield and law enforcement folks to come to Santa Ana. Looking further ahead, this eye chart is what FirstNet at the national level they put up. This is their plan, their process. We are in the preparation phase, so we're just getting started, and what's coming up next week is this pre-consultation workshop, the preps. So as you can see, there's a lot of work to be done. 28 states. Oh, see. So the whole point of this is to come and put our checklist together of what's in California and where California is in the process, and allow FirstNet an opportunity to come in and really move us in the right direction. 28 states have submitted their consultation checklist so far. So we are looking forward to getting ours submitted within the next couple months, and that's the precursor to getting the FirstNet folks out here for the actual consultation. Here's the road. This is part of that FirstNet by the numbers graphic I put up earlier. So we are here, obviously, 2014 to 16, just collecting data, making people aware of what's going on. 2016 and beyond is you can see there's a lot of work to be done. 2022, 8 years from now, is probably the earliest that we'll have the FirstNet network operational. So what we're looking to you folks to help us with is getting the word out. So if you could encourage your constituents, your organizations, your agencies to come up to speed on what FirstNet's about. You can reach out to Karen's organization, and they can bring you up to speed. You can come to our workshops, our town halls, our meetings. Invite us. We're looking at conferences coming up. Opportunities to speak. So if there's a good 911 conference coming up that you would like us to give a short presentation, or invite the national level FirstNet folks to come out and speak, we'd like to take advantage of that. And here's my name and contact information along with Mike Boyden. So,
and I just had a couple of things I wanted to add to this. Our workshop has been, we've received an overwhelming response. I was really surprised. I don't know that everybody was, but I was very surprised with the overwhelming response. So we'll be talking with the Office of Emergency Communications to have one more workshop, hopefully down in Southern California. The town halls also have been going really well. While we've had 50 or more in attendance, we also have a lot of folks on the webinar, and then we've also have it up on YouTube, and we've been getting hits that people are going back and actually watching that as well. It's been interesting looking at the webinar list of who's watching, and other states are actually watching our town halls as well. I am going to be adding at least one more, and sorry folks for public safety communication staff that are out there, several more town halls. They just generated a lot of good discussion and dialogue, and it's getting the word out. We will have a town hall specific for the PSAPs. I think it's really important, as the PSAPs are integral to moving forward with FirstNet. And then we will see how it goes from there, but the town halls truly have been generating a lot of communication. And then I wanted to let everyone know here as well, our meeting in October for the California First Responder Network Board of Directors, Todd Early from Texas, he's the point of contact for Texas, will be coming out and presenting on the LTE system that they have in Harris County. I saw that, and it is phenomenal. I hope we get that in California soon. So he will be coming out and talking about some of the best practices, challenges, and how that actually works for them. I'm sorry, I just needed to.
No, thank you very much.
I get excited about this. I'm really excited how things have been moving and getting the word out.
So, Karen, I've heard very positive things about the town halls as well, and it's been a great forum to get the information out. And I think to clear up a lot of misconceptions that people had about what FirstNet is and isn't. Everybody was really nervous about their land mobile radio going away. The only thing that I would ask is if we could get a PDF of these presentations to send out to our association mail groups. With this, I mean, just the more information, the better, and for people to see the work that the FirstNet board here in California is doing, and that the 911 advisory board is being regularly updated, and then that we're sharing that information out, I think is really going to support the process. Great. So these would be great, and we'll be inviting you to our conference for California Fire Chiefs this fall, and would love to have a rep come. So thank you, and thank you very much, Karen.
See, eventually we will get a website set up where all of this information will be out on that website, and it'll be just hopefully very easy for people to go to that site and just download these presentations.
The email lists for us are really great, because trying to get people to go to a website sometimes requires them to think. And so a lot of times it's easier for us to just directly feed them the information. So like I said, PDFs, this is a great presentation. It's a nice update, and it'd be great to share with our various memberships.
Okay.
Thank you.
One last thing I forgot to mention is that FirstNet, the national organization, is up to 60 employees. They're still looking to hire a few more, and one type of person they're looking for is an NG 911 subject matter expert. So if you've got a candidate, let us know, and we can pass that along to the national organization. So, anything? All right, thank you.
Thank you.
Greg, just one quick question. I'd also heard that they were looking for regional 911 representatives. Is that the case, or there had been some talk about that at the National APCO conference, and I don't know if that's moving forward or if that was just a rumor.
Well, the national level is looking to hire someone to work at the national level, and I'm sure at the regional level within each state, they want the participation.
Actually, they were going to actually hire someone for California.
For someone forward, so there is going to be regional representation, or is this somebody from California to oversee the whole effort?
I can't answer the regional. I was really being like myopic in what I wanted. I wanted somebody for California, and they are going to hire someone for California.
Great.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Okay, moving on now to reports. So the California 911 branch report, Bill?
Good morning again. To start out, you have the normal handouts that are provided. The first one is the wireless 911 deployment. that identifies the number of PSAPs in California who are not taking their wireless calls at this time. That has not changed since the last advisory board meeting. We still have 11 PSAPs who are not taking that, so we're still working to try and reduce that down. Hopefully we'll have a change in it by the next advisory board in November. You have the status activity tasks, and please review that. If there's any changes or additions or corrections, contact Paul DeMay at our office, and he will have that corrected and posted. The third handout is the CETNA fund condition statement. We go over that at each advisory board. That is from 2012, and it shows the CETNA fund for the next 2 years. And I'm trying to find it here real quick. Here's a copy of the whole. Thank you. If you look at the fund condition statement and you look at the actual revenues from the CETNA fund, the surcharge, you see it increases from $79 million in 2012, 2013, which were the actual revenues, projected to $94 million in 13-14 fiscal year, and $107 million in 14-15. Through some of the discussions we've had, we've talked about the decreasing revenues with the CETNA fund. So I did want to point out not to take those numbers too optimistically. The reason you see those numbers are due to the change in the surcharge that we enacted in 2013. Since it is 6 months offset from when the money has actually become available, we don't see the maximum return from the change in the surcharge for a year. So that's why you see that increasing to $107 million. That is the peak of expected returns from the change in the surcharge. After that year, we're going to see the surcharge start to decline again. It'll max out, then it will start declining. So again, the need to correct the surcharge, correct the CETNA for funding is very important, and we will definitely maintain our efforts in getting that corrected.
Bill, is this tracking with the are these numbers still trending the way the PDF was of the CETNA fund that you provided all of us and the legislature as we've been going through these different legislative bills? And if not, can we update that?
I'm having a hard time hearing.
I'm sorry. The report that we provided the 911 board probably 2 meetings ago, we showed the PDF on the trends, the chart on where the dollars were going to peak and then start to decline, showing that by, I think it was within 3 years, we would not have enough funds for the CETNA fund.
Yes.
Does this include the surcharge that we increased in October?
That chart
Yes, it does.
Yes.
That chart did, but I'm just saying, are we still trending the same way?
This chart here.
Yes. Are we trending the same way?
Yes, exactly.
It is.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah, our office tracks the expenditures of CETNA monthly. Because of the way the CETNA is right now, we want to be able to project any deficiencies we may see down the road. So we track expenditures monthly right now so we can make projections.
And I believe that's available on the website.
We don't post this monthly on the website. We can. We
No,
can
I
put
believe
up there.
it was up on the website.
It was
at
up
one
on the
time.
website. I'm hoping it still is. We're having some issues with the website. Okay. But it was part of the documents from the board meeting. I know it was there, but I don't believe that we have posted it separately.
I just think it's beneficial for that
Yes.
to be, as you get your monthlies, even if it is still tracking, change the date, the as-of date on it, and keep it current so that we know we can go to that as a source for the most current information on the funding trends for CETNA.
Yeah, well, remember that the chart is based on the actual expenditures as provided to us by the Board of Equalization yearly. So that's one. Our office double checks Board of Equalization's projections. We do our own projections. We are usually within a few $1,000s of what the board is. So they're tracking very closely in where we expect the CETNA to go. And we utilize the return performance on the CETNA to project out where we're going to be 3 or 4 years down the road. So,
but as I recall, you're reporting four lines of data on that chart.
Correct.
Which includes the projection, the actual received. And to me, the bottom line to this is that it's important that we have current information available on the website so that as the members need that in discussions with our constituents, we know that what we're going to is the most current information available. And if it's the same, that's fine. Just change the date on it monthly.
Yeah, because this looks at the yearly performance of the CETNA as a month-to-month performance of the CETNA. So we look at it as a month-to-month, but this chart actually shows the yearly performance of the CETNA.
I think what Sam's asking, can we just post this either monthly to make sure that whenever anyone wants to get the most current data, that they can pull it off of our website and then know that that is the most current data.
Yeah.
So even if we have no changes, we just post it, say, the first of every month or the last day or the middle of the month, whatever days.
And then your date on it.
And it's dated,
It's
right.
dated so that somebody knows.
Yeah, we can post every month. It just won't change. It only changes once a year.
But
As we get the new projections,
Correct.
and review the new projections, because we don't have a chart that shows the monthly right now. So this is just the yearly projection. But we can post it. That's not an issue.
Well, and just make sure we have a date. That way there's no confusion if it's the most current data.
Yeah, we can do that.
Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
And Bill, on the flip side of that, have you seen an increase in requests for CPE equipment this year because there is a deadline of June 30th of 2015 for some of the PSAPs, and do you anticipate that the expenditures will exceed projections because of that?
Not at this time. I mean, we see people starting to put in their requests for it because of the change in policies, but we're not at the point we're seeing any concerns with funding right now. But we're still early in the fiscal year, too. Okay, the next item moving on to is the projects and initiatives the branch is working on. The first one that we've been talking about has become very prevalent since May 15th is text to 911. At the last meeting, we had finished our testing. We had developed a report that is published on our website, and that is great. The next thing to do was start deployment of text to 911 in California. We've met some resistance from the PSAPs. It's not something everybody's eager to jump into, but we do have a few PSAPs that are moving forward and setting a precedence for California. One PSAP that is fully activated right now, or is near full activation, is CSU Long Beach. They've been activation actually since May 15th. They were one of our test PSAPs, and they just continued on. They're just bringing up all 4 carriers at this point in time. We're also working with Butte County and San Bernardino counties for deployment of text to 911. Excuse me. Butte was looking to go live on the 19th, but because of some issues with the TCC and funding, we're delaying that for a while as we work out the funding issues with the TCC provider, which is in Toronto. But we fully expect to get that resolved and move forward. And then with San Bernardino County, I think we have about 20 PSAPs right now. Around 20 PSAPs that are looking forward to join that program. They're going to be using TCS as that. And again, we're looking December 1st of the year to do that. One of the issues we are having right now is funding for some of the services. There were the basic services provided with text, and one of the major issues is transferring calls. With the basic services, we don't have a really robust way to transfer calls. It's limited either the number of calls you can transfer or how the calls are transferred. And of course, with PSAPs in California, all calls come into a primary, and we may have to transfer either to another primary or to a secondary. So being able to transfer a call is very critical. We are looking at one of the third-party providers who now say they can do transfers at a cost. So we are looking at the amount of expenditures that's going to take, not only to start up the program, but also to do that on a statewide level. So we're reviewing that. We don't expect it to be a major issue. It's a matter of really just looking at the funding and incorporating that into expenditures and where we're going to be with the SETNA. Then we can go ahead and move forward. So we do expect to see more and more PSAPs come up by the first of the year, for sure. The next project that we've talked about is the 911 Education Awareness Program. For the last 2 years, we've been working with Ogilvy Worldwide Consulting, and they've been doing a number of consumer and PSAP surveys. A lot of that data gathering was to understand how PSAPs view 911, how they respond to 911, how they educate the public on 911. Conversely, how does the public look at 911? And what do they do with it? What do they think it's for? When should you call 911? Out of those 2 years, came two campaigns we're working on right now. One is Worst Sound Ever, and the other campaign is Location. I'm pleased to say we have 5 pilots with Elk Grove PD, Anaheim PD, CSU Long Beach, Calaveras Sheriff's Office, and Shasta Communications are test pilots. Those pilots are beginning as of today. We are starting to push out some of the creative material that was developed. So those 5 pilot PSAPs will really set the way that other PSAPs will be marketing to the public in the future. The intent on these two, of course, Worst Sound Ever is really to educate the public. You don't call 911 for everything that happens. It really should be an emergency. So when you call, so the PSAPs aren't inundated with non-emergency calls that could delay response of a first responder to a real emergency. And of course, the one thing we talk about all the time is the location accuracy and making sure that people understand that when you call 911, have a very good idea where you're at, or at least have understand landmarks and stuff you can use to identify where you're at. We've all heard of situations where somebody has died because they didn't know where they're at. And we all talked about the location issues as far as getting accurate location from the carriers. So this is really to enforce that. Out of these 5 pilots will become what we call a media toolkit. It's not designed for our office to market for all the PSAPs statewide, but provide information to the PSAPs on how they can market, what type of information they should market, what type of marketing tools are best used for the areas they are in, or what type of message they're trying to get out to the public. Some of the tools they are using right now are tip cards, and I have a couple of examples of what we're doing. These are tip cards that families can keep on hand. They have a little magnet go on the back of the refrigerator. They can write down all the emergency services numbers and keep those. And then out of the marketing campaign, this is one of the posters they're using. Some of these are going to be on bus station stops, inside buses, on billboards that'll be around. This one is the Worst Sound Ever campaign. The other one is the language or location information. So these are just a couple examples of the creative materials that were done by Ogilvy for us. The campaign is expected to run through October of 2014. It will end in December, and at that point in time, we'll have the marketing or the media toolkit available to the PSAPs, and we'll be able to provide those to the PSAPs upon request. And we'll be discussing this further when we get to NENA. The third one, of course, is Next Gen 911. We talk about this at each advisory board, and we continue progress with Next Gen. One of the major things we're doing as an office right now is to make sure we are educated as much as possible on what Next Gen really is. We talk to other states. We talk to the vendor community, not only the carriers, but the service providers themselves, to really understand all the components of Next Gen, what Next Gen can do, how it's going to fit in California, various options. Because as we move forward and start actually issuing orders with some of the vendors and some of the service providers, we want to make sure we're getting exactly what we expect for California. So we continue to work with those, and we will continue to work with them as long as we need to. Two of the things we are working on that we've talked about, one is bringing a consultant on to assist California in developing a transition plan. We're at that point now where we really need to start looking at moving California into Next Gen. We've been relying on the legacy system now for many years. It still works, but as technology comes along, it's not going to support that technology. So we've been working on an RFO. It's in its final stages. We expect that to be going out to procurement shortly. So I'm hoping by the next advisory board, I'll be able to present who our consultant will be for Next Gen for California. The other, of course, is an RFP for system services, GIS information, and a new MPA contract for CPE equipment. We expect that to have that bid out and available late next year, which will be in plenty of time for after the development of the transition plan. So it'll be available to us when we start actually doing next-gen deployment in California. One of the things we talked about the last advisory board, and I want to bring up again, is when we did the policy and practices, we worked very cooperatively with the work group, the LRPC work group. I would like to ask the advisory board to consider repurposing that work group to assist our office and our consultant when we bring them on board in the development next gen for California. One of the things we are going to need is input from the PSAPs on their expectations and information on how they operate to help develop and build out a system statewide for California. So utilizing a work group that we already have a very strong cooperative relationship just helps out. It seems like a logical progression to do with them. So I ask the advisory board to consider repurposing that group for that purpose in the future. And the remaining pilot projects, the Mendocino and Pasadena ring projects and the Ventura hosted projects. We talked about last time that we were having some issues with the CPE vendor. We were having trouble with the programming of the GUI interface. We determined it was taking too long to do that. We sat down and we had a discussion with our primary vendor, AT&T, expressed our concerns, not only our office, but also with the ring project personnel, and we asked them that they take a different direction. And they've worked with us on that. This is a service they are providing, and part of their responsibility is to provide the CPE at the same time. So they have moved away from the provider they were going to use, TCS. They are now working with Cassidian, which is the product is being used in the ring project area. One of the benefits now, where we're looking at getting the software issues resolved in February, we're now looking at actual deployment beginning in February. So it's really accelerated the schedule by moving off to a different vendor. So we're very happy with the work there. And that will impact both Mendocino and the Pasadena projects because they are now working parallel instead of one after the other. The Ventura hosted project is moving forward. The stage 1 testing was completed, and that was the routing of non-911 calls. We will actually begin routing wireless 911 calls in December, and again, that's the ability of AT&T to be able to route calls on location to the PSAPs, the same process that we did with the Northeast Grant Project. We've talked about the Net 911 report already, and Member Berdan has already talked about the two ledge updates on SB 112 and AB 117. So that ends my report, if there's any questions.
Bill, just real quick, Setna Fund's responsible for paying for the text to 911 Next Gen 911 as well. They're going to pay for all those services?
It falls within the statute of what our office should do, yes, when you look at it. Other questions? Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks, Bill. The next report is the Long Range Planning Committee. Tracy?
I will be speaking for the Long Range Planning Committee report on the CCTF issues with the county coordinators. So the Long Range Planning Committee was given the final report for the county coordinator task force duty to look at issues with the county coordinators, and we gave our final report yesterday, and that included resources that are already in place, including the county coordinator website, Chapter 8 of the 911 Branch Operations Manual, and the county coordinator resource manual. We also reported on actions taken for issues that came up during the survey. Those were during that survey, we found to have 6 county coordinators who did not feel familiar with the position. So we have taken, the county coordinator task force members have taken on those 6 county coordinators in a mentorship and are assisting them to become familiar with the position. There was a group that were somewhat familiar, and we will begin conference calls, email exchanges, and webinars, thanks to Charlie's suggestion, to better educate them on those areas once we've identified what areas need to be covered. We will also be going over the county coordinator resource manual chapters in those in that education project. Another issue that we found was identifying new county coordinators. So we will begin asking the 911 branch to help identify new county coordinators, along with inserting a request in the operations manual and the resource manual for county coordinators that are vacating the position to notify the county coordinator task force of their vacancy and if they have information on the new county coordinator so that we can begin mentoring those new county coordinators. We also are going to be starting an outreach project, which would, the first thing on our list for that is to have a breakout session at NENA and to get PSAP managers familiar with the responsibilities and the duties of a county coordinator so that they will better know what to be looking for if the county coordinator is actually performing up to par. And we have an escalation process that we've put in place. And for the rest of the LRPC update, I will give to Charlie.
Thank you, Tracy. And I shared for Chris, so it's probably appropriate that I give the update. The LRPC had a short but productive meeting yesterday. The initial discussion concerned a policy that the CHP had asked about, and that was for PSAPs that have multiple, or organizations that have multiple PSAPs. And they wanted some language inserted in the operations manual to state that they were not limited to the one-year time frame for all of those PSAPs, which certainly makes sense. Rolling out CPE replacement for 20-plus centers takes considerably longer than a year. And I think the discussion, and from the state's perspective, that is really a practice rather than a policy. And we didn't want to incorporate it into the operations manual, but it has been the state's practice in the past and will continue to be to recognize that organizations with multiple PSAPs require a longer time frame in order to replace their CPE equipment for a variety of reasons. And I think that the CHP representative is going to go back to their administration and have some continued discussion, may bring it back at the next LRPC meeting, but the decision for now was to leave it as a practice rather than a policy. The second item we discussed was the Warren Act and the revisions to the Warren Act that we've been working on now for almost a year. And I think that we've made the changes that the LRPC would like to see in discussion with the state representatives, and we're ready to pass that document on to the full 911 Advisory Board for consideration. We have track changes in that document, and I think Paul will disseminate it to the full Advisory Board for consideration at our next meeting. A lot of work went into that, particularly Chris Herron did a lot of work on that document, so I want to thank him for his efforts on revising the Warren Act and bringing it up to date. I think it was originally enacted in the 70s, so there was a lot of language that needed to be changed, and I think we've done a good job, but there may be some additional suggestions that the full board will have. There was a good presentation by Bill, and you've heard most of it about text to 911, and there was some discussion about why are the PSAPs reticent to take text to 911, and my analogy is it's a little bit like wireless. There were these concerns that you would be overwhelmed by all the traffic, and I think there's some different concerns with texting. Can we transfer? Will we miss one because it's a standalone system right now? It's not integrated into the full CPE equipment because we don't have a broadband network yet to provide the capabilities that we truly need. I think that that being said, there's a public expectation that we're going to be taking text, and that's going to necessitate that most PSAPs eventually take it prior to next generation. And the one thing that Bill did say that we appreciated was that the state is assembling some best practices now once they go live with San Bernardino and Butte County. And I think a lot of the PSAPs will be looking to that to say, how do we handle that? What if you have something that needs to be transferred to another agency that can't accept it? How do you make sure that your dispatchers are alerted? Do you put it at every workstation? Do you have one specific or one or two call takers that specifically take text? I think there's a lot of questions that are still out there that hopefully will be answered by these two pilot projects. Then we can get the ball rolling on text to 911. CCTF gave a great overview of what they're planning to do. I think the mentoring program and the conference call / webinar is a great idea in terms of getting new county coordinators up to speed. The NENA breakout session at the conference will be great, and I think the flip side of that is also the county coordinators can talk to the PSAP managers about what their role is, how important it is if they have misroutes that they get those to the county coordinators in a timely manner, and other things like that that really are the PSAP manager's responsibility. There were no new technologies that came up in that meeting that I was aware of. We didn't discuss any. I think that will be an increasing concern once we do go to a broadband network, where you may have a lot of different companies that would like to utilize that as part of their business practice, and we'll need to make sure that we are aware of those and regulate them as needed. As we spoke, the 911 Policy and Practice Committee, we would like to continue that. I think the consensus is in a new role, hopefully as working with the consultant on next generation 911, and I don't know if it's an appropriate time now to make a motion to do that. We also talked about renaming the group, and we didn't.
Actually, what I'd like to do is to put it as an actual agenda item on the next meeting, and then we can talk about it, vote on it, and
Okay.
stay within the constraints that I have to stay within.
Very good. I'll defer to your choice there. And that was the major topics of discussion. Are there any questions or additional comments on those issues?
I had a quick question. If you know, how many county coordinators are in there in Los Angeles County? Is there just the one?
Just one for each county.
Is it reasonable to think that one county coordinator is sufficient for a county as large as Los Angeles or some of the other counties? Where's the statutory authority in determining how many county coordinators there are? Where's the authority for that?
Well, the LA County Coordinator is a full-time county coordinator, so she puts in full-time hours, and if she did not feel like she had enough time to do all of her duties, she would have to go and ask for help. She did used to have somebody helping her out. She does not have that now, so I would have to defer to her whether she needs that or not. But she would have to go to whoever's paying her check. I think it's the sheriff, but I'm not positive which
Karen?
agency.
I don't remember which agency is actually paying the salary.
Right.
But the county coordinators have a list of duties, so they're not full-time jobs at every county. LA County, it is a full-time job. Some of the smaller counties, it's a part-time job. So I do know that. We could go back and, but we've not had any complaints with the inability of serving LA County that I'm aware of.
And I'm not suggesting there is a problem. It's just such a large county, and there's 80 some odd different municipalities and 40 or 50 different, well, more than that, actually, when you factor in all the fire and law enforcement agencies. It just seems that there's a significant amount of work for an individual person to be tasked with in a county that large.
She is definitely very busy. But she does
So
a good
maybe
job.
that's a question, a conversation I could then have with her
Yes.
directly. All right, thank you.
And I just had one comment. We were talking about rolling out text to 911. I really support mentoring programs, and so if us as the office putting together the best practices, maybe we can also establish a mentoring program through either the PSAPs or the county coordinators to help PSAPs as they begin rolling this out. Just a suggestion.
Okay.
Because it would be kind of scary out there. It's new, and I mean, I worry about this stuff.
I agree, and I think the two new agencies coming on, everybody's kind of looking to that to really get a feel for what's going to happen. So we really need to see how that works to feel more comfortable with the next steps.
Absolutely. Okay, now let me see what's next. And was that also the county coordinator task force report? Or do you have a separate report?
I have a separate report.
Okay, if we can move on to that now.
Okay, since the last advisory board meeting, the County Coordinator Task Force continues to have participatory members of the LRPC policy work group, which may be renamed, and also they provide support to the California Education and Awareness Program project. We had our forum that was held on June 25th at the state office. It was well attended and covered several subjects. The agenda items included a presentation on new reimbursement practice, an update to the Education and Awareness Project, a status on the California Text to 911 was given. The CCTF led a detailed review of the MSAG chapter from the County Coordinator Resource Manual, and our plan is to ultimately review all resource manual chapters in upcoming forums and through webinars and conference calls. And we would also just want to extend our thanks to the 911 office, the 911 branch, for the ongoing support of having forums and allowing us to have those in accordance with the NENA conference. It's not supposed to be called the conference anymore. I can't remember what the training event.
Training event.
That's right, training event. That forum will be our only forum in 2014, so we can return to having the biannual forums in conjunction with the NENA training event. Our next forum then will be February 13, 2015 in San Diego, but we do continue to have our monthly county coordinator conference calls where we discuss any issues that come up and just assist any county coordinators that have any questions. We've completed our assignment, which I gave the report on, and that was given to the LRPC. At the last advisory board meeting, we advised that we had 2 vacancies in the county coordinator task force. Since that last meeting, we put out a request for applications. We received the applications and filled the vacancies with Jared Altenhoffel of Kern County and Aaron Barenshot of Orange County. However, now we have another opening due to a recent promotion of Aaron Brockus with Ventura County. So we are soliciting for her replacement and hope to have a new member in place by the first quarter of 2015. That's the report. Any questions?
Thank you very much. And again, I just applaud the County Coordinator Task Force for what you've done. So thank you very much. Okay, the next item on the agenda is presentations. And today we're very honored to have Rear Admiral retired David Simpson from the Federal Communications Commission, FCC. He is the Bureau Chief for the Public Safety and Homeland Security Bureau. And he'll be talking about the FCC perspectives on Next Gen 911, location-based route, location-based accuracy, text to 911, and much more. Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you, Karen, and good morning to the California 911 Board. I want to thank you first for having me here today. The last time I spent any significant time in Sacramento was in 1977 when I attended California Boys State. And what a wonderful introduction with California's government, and it gave me a clear insight into how important the state level, the county, the municipalities, and all the different boards and bureaus that make things work. So it's personally exciting for me to come before one of the boards here that really helps ensure that Californians have the critical public safety communications when they need them. I want to give you a quick overview of what we've been doing at the Commission on 911. First, I'll go over our recently adopted text 911 rules. Then I'll provide you with an update on what we're doing with E911 location accuracy, wireless emergency alerts, our investigation of the recent multi-state 911 outage, cybersecurity, and a few quick words on our work with FirstNet and hopefully your work with FirstNet. Text 911, as you well know, consumers expect to be able to reach 911. Charles had a great, I think, insight that there are barriers here. But we've got a constituency across this nation that increasingly uses texting as a primary means of communication, and we owe it to them to ensure that they can call for help when they need it. Nevertheless, most Americans still can't send a text message to 911 and receive help. Only 121 PSAPs in 18 states currently accept 911 messages. But the good news is that's increasing fast. Early adopters of text 911 have had positive experiences so far, and we at the Commission have been working hard to increase those numbers and get text 911 rolled out nationwide. To start, in December 2012, the 4 major wireless carriers entered into a voluntary agreement to support text 911 and have now followed through on that commitment. On August 8th, the Commission adopted rules requiring all wireless carriers, even beyond the 4, and providers for interconnected text messaging services to be able to support text 911 by December 31st of this year. After that, covered text providers must begin delivering 911 text messages to requesting PSAPs by June 30th, 2015, or within 6 months of the PSAP's request, whichever is later. So the timing for this, really, after the first of the year, is in the hands of the PSAPs. When they're ready to go, carriers need to be able to provide them text to 911 services within 6 months of that ask. The report and order also calls for a centralized database where PSAPs can declare their text readiness. That's what triggers the clock, which will streamline the PSAP request process and alleviate administrative burdens on both PSAPs and covered text providers. We will issue public notices with more information on the database as it continues to develop. The report and order sets forth clear benchmarks and an operational framework which brings interconnected text messaging services into the fold and provides a flexible path to compliance for all covered text providers. The item we adopted this month also contains a third further notice with 3 elements. It seeks comments on how and when text providers may be able to provide enhanced location information with the text. Right now, it's only phase 1. Location accuracy as good as the cell tower that's supporting it. 2, that we see comment on roaming support for 911 text messages, which really addresses some of the concerns brought up earlier. And it also seeks comment on future texting services, those non-interconnected text applications that today don't use the regular North American numbering plan for the text. So it goes beyond things like Apple messaging. One of our biggest challenges with text to 911 was hearing from the public safety community that they didn't want to support it until all the carriers were on board. This is really a chicken or the egg concept. You know, if we wait until it's perfect, then we'll never start. If it's we never start, it'll never get perfect. We balanced the input from all the stakeholders and heard clearly from the carriers they didn't want to support it if the PSAPs were on board. We've got a significant slice of PSAPs now that are using it, and we felt that text 911 could wait no longer. The rules we adopted leverage the success of and effectively codify the carrier NENA APCO agreement, and they establish a clearly defined on-ramp for the remaining text message service providers. With these rules in place, states and local jurisdictions can effectively plan for, fund, and implement text 911 service in their communities. We're conscious that these are local funding decisions, and we felt that the additional clarity that we could provide with rulemaking would help those local entities present the need to the communities, present what it would take to have it happen, and have communities decide. We also recognize, however, that communication networks and services regularly migrate to new technologies and consumer habits change. The rules we adopted will ensure that consumers' access to critical life-saving services will be preserved even as newer technologies are made available and as we move towards tech transition to an all-IP world. We at the Commission are focused on moving forward on the tech transition and deployment to next generation 911, and we believe firmly that text 911 is a strong step in that direction. Even though the Commission is working to make text to 911 a reality nationwide, I can understand some PSAP's hesitation to adopt text to 911. I know that there's a specific concern in California with regard to how text 911 can work with those constituents whose native tongue is not English. While this is certainly a challenge, it's not an insurmountable one, and we at the Commission stand ready to help you develop solutions. However, we encourage you to move forward with text 911 implementation, even in the absence of comprehensive multilingual solutions, as there are thousands of Californians that could and may very well need to avail themselves of text 911 before the solution is developed. I'm more convicted of this since a visit from AHA, the Asian American and Pacific Islander group with MEMAU, as well as Claude Stout from the deaf and hard of hearing communities. Both of those groups felt that text 911 would help those minority groups better employ 911 service. The ability for a person who doesn't speak English well to slow the engagement down a bit with the PSAP so that they can type something in and then fully appreciate that, in some cases helps with that exchange. The ability to bring in an element of translation services that is text-oriented is exciting to both of those groups. On the hearing impaired and the deaf community, they absolutely want to move away from TTY and to text to 911. They see that as a mainstream communication source that advances their ability to use this public service in a mainstream manner, and they are very strongly behind moving to text to 911 as rapidly as possible. I've since that conversation asked the Bureau to look at a sunset path for the TTY requirement in PSAPs, recognizing that we can't keep adding things, new things to fund without looking at eliminating the cost of legacy equipment. So we'll be taking that on in the next couple of months. I'll end the discussion on text to 911 with a quick anecdote. I visited the PSAP that supports the parish of Jefferson Parish in Louisiana recently, and asked them how they're postured to migrate to text 911. They're very excited. They're in that final couple weeks before they go live, so the system is hot. They can make text 911 calls, and I asked them about their strategy in putting it together. The PSAP director said he took his greatest skeptic on text 911. It was the longest serving call taker, and he put her in charge of the transition program. And she at first was just convinced we're going to get too many texts, it's going to be too hard, we want to understand that language. She flipped. She is now the strongest proponent in the PSAP, and the director felt that his choice to select a veteran like that then would mean that all the newer employees would be just that much more tech savvy before they would then embark upon actually operationalizing the capability. I'll contrast that with an equally effective strategy. I was in Washington, D.C.'s PSAP, Jennifer Green, just last week, and they're a larger PSAP. They have a much higher call volume in Washington, D.C., and a significant workforce. She's made the decision to couple this with an opportunity that she had to generate some new hires. And on the new hires, she's specifically using screening that looks at the knowledge, skills, and abilities for next generation 911 kind of skills, more analytical skills, the ability to stitch things together. And it's her intent to have that new cadre grow from the very beginning at tech-savvy capability among the workforce, and she feels that she can do it shift by shift by shift, having the texters to be a part of the group on watch at any given time. I think both will work. The key is that PSAPs embrace the transition and develop a plan that works best for them. Even though that we're working to make text 911 a reality nationwide, let me move on now to location accuracy. The exponential increase in wireless 911 calls, particularly those from indoor locations, coupled with the trend of Americans cutting the cord, compels us to re-examine our location standards, and the Commission has made this a priority. When NENA provided our Bureau with data suggesting a significant decline in 911 Phase 2 performance, we took that very seriously. We held a location accuracy workshop in November last year, which identified important issues and initiated a constructive and ongoing dialogue about how all stakeholders can work together to improve E911 performance. For example, the workshop highlighted that automatic rebidding by PSAPs could yield significant improvements in the quality of location information, and were encouraged by California's decision to reincorporate automatic rebidding into their PSAPs. I would like to follow up with California, and if this change still leaves PSAPs with location not meeting Phase 2 requirements, we'll want to explore options with you. And I think I heard today that that may be the case. And so while we all want to move on to indoor location accuracy, it's important to make the rules in the books today with regard to outdoor location in fact, effective. So we want to work with you on next steps with that. For indoor location accuracy, in February, the Commission adopted a third further notice of proposed rulemaking that proposed specific enhancements to existing E911 rules for indoor location accuracy. Specifically, we proposed that within 2 years of rules being adopted, wireless carriers could be able to locate 80% of indoor wireless 911 callers within 50 meters on the horizontal plane, and within 3 years that they'd be able to do that Z-axis within 3 meters. We sought comment on longer-term location accuracy goals and how they would fit into the all-IP next-gen environment. Our proposals to address the need for better location accuracy are simple. When wireless customers call 911, location information must be delivered to PSAPs with sufficient accuracy to support successful, timely dispatch of first responders, regardless of whether the call is made from inside or outside. We're encouraged by the rapidly maturing commercial market for location-based services. We believe that the challenge is no longer developing the technology to support improved 911 location. The technology exists. I used the technology extensively to find bad guys in Iraq that didn't want their cell phones to be found. If we're able to do that kind of employment of technological systems to discover cell phones that don't want to be discovered, we certainly should be able to pinpoint the location of cell phones that do want to be discovered. This is why we are moving determinedly to improve E911 location accuracy, and particularly to ensure that calls placed from indoor locations include dispatchable information. Our comment window for the E911 location accuracy proceeding closed on July 14th, and we are actively engaged in reviewing the record and developing next steps to improve E911. We urge you and others in the PSAP community to continue to provide us with information on actual status of location accuracy and your comments and ideas on how to make it better in the future. We're particularly impressed with the work that California is doing on the 911 call volume initiative, and I'll talk a little bit about that later, but we think that absolutely can play a role in allowing us to better hold accountable the operation of systems and services. Wireless emergency alerts. Another topic we've been focused on at the Commission is wireless emergency alerts. You all know that effective emergency response can be significantly enhanced by emergency alerts that are delivered to the affected public in a timely and accurate manner. There are few people with their finger on the pulse of potential emergency events like a 911 call taker, who is often the first person to learn of an emergency event that may affect the public at large. Thus, it really makes sense that 911 and alerting to the public should be linked. And too often across America today, it's not. The PSAPs, the call takers, don't have the ability to initiate wireless emergency alerts. That's done quite often within the Emergency Operations Center, the EMC chain, but that hasn't connected with the PSAPs. Fortunately, both the necessary technology and protocols for making this a reality are already in place or soon will be. The alerting systems we have today use a common open standard language, the Common Alerting Protocol, or CAP, which makes such communications feasible. These systems, particularly wireless emergency alerts, have the capability to send geographically targeted alerts to the public in affected areas. Moreover, connections that FEMA provides through its Integrated Public Alert and Warning System, IPAWS, to reach wireless emergency alerts are readily available to emergency managers nationwide at minimal to no cost. We're seeing real examples of lives saved from WIA in areas of the United States that have tornadoes regularly. The ability for the weather folks to get the Doppler radar return that says, no kidding, there's a tornado in and around this radar. They then cross over to draw a polygon around the part of the map where that tornado, no kidding, is heading, and the warning goes out just to the phones in that polygon. That's an amazing capability, and we've really just scratched the surface on what that could do for us. Some states, including right here in California, already make available a reverse 911 capability to automatically call affected residents to provide notice of a fire, and we applaud this functionality. But I think it falls short of what could be possible if we also added WIA to that. WIA is not currently being exploited to its full potential by state and local emergency management agencies, and we believe that more can and needs to be done. Particularly, we need commitments from emergency operation managers to use the alerting systems made available to them and to foster the connection between their PSAPs and emergency alerting functions. Just two examples. One, Seminole County. I was there at an APCO conference in February, visited the PSAP, and they described to me a active shooter call that they got from a junior high school, and the caller said there's an active shooter in the senior high school a little bit across the county. The call taker thought it might be a prank call. She heard some laughter in the background, but as you all know better than any, you got to follow protocol and things like that and not presume that it was a prank. She executed as to their protocol, and they put the school in lockdown. They started to roll units in the SWAT team to the high school, and the SWAT team began to form a perimeter. Well, before that perimeter even started to be built, the kids, as they got the order to go to lockdown, anyone want to guess what happened? Twitter, Facebook. The PSAP lost control of the velocity of the information. They lost control of the narrative around that incident. And 5,000 parents all independently got into their cars, left their places of business or their homes, and started to head right for the high school, just as the perimeter was being built and the police were given the instructions to, hey, be on the lookout for an agitated male who may not take no for an answer. That's what we call in the military a blue-on-blue situation. And we need to better equip our PSAPs to engage in or compete with the social media that will hijack the narrative if we don't have the ability to bring an authoritative voice rapidly into that equation. A second example is one that hasn't occurred, but a notional example that's really tied to your California 911 call volume project. And as you can just imagine that map now of the call volume that you've got, and instantaneously you get the 4 or 5 standard deviations above what normal call volume is in a location. You zoom in on that county. You notice that all of the calls are coming within an annulus, that there's no calls in the middle of it. You look at the middle of that annulus, you see it's a chemical plant. Oh my God. Before you've even talked to a single 911 caller, you have a pretty good suspicion that you have had an explosion at a chemical plant with fatalities. Now what? You've got a plume that the weather's taken somewhere downstream, downwind of that, and what do the PSAPs do next? And I'd suggest that as you look at your call volume project, that you think about WIA and who will react to that rich immediate volume set that you have, data set on that call volume, and what they do about that next. And it may be that WIA plays a real role in that. PSAPs are uniquely positioned to utilize both the emergency alerting system and WIA to quickly disseminate accurate emergency information geo-targeted to the public, as well as coordinate the information dissemination with first responders. And we would like to work together with you all to work on making EAS and WIA a better part of your toolkit. 911 governance. I'd like to touch upon the Commission's ongoing investigation to several recent 911 outages. On April 9th and 10th, a multi-state outage occurred in IP-based facilities used to support delivery of 911 calls in Washington State, as well as portions of California, Pennsylvania, Minnesota, Florida, North Carolina, and South Carolina. I'm told about a third of the geographic area of California was impacted, yet California wasn't notified in a very timely way. I'm really concerned about that. According to preliminary reports, nearly 4,500 911 calls did not get through to PSAPs during that 6-hour period, beginning just before midnight on April 9th. Then earlier this month, there were 2 other incidents, One, a statewide 911 outage in Vermont, and the second, a carrier-wide outage for T-Mobile, which affected more than 40 million consumers across all of T-Mobile's service areas. So if you live in an area where T-Mobile works, for 2.5 hours, you could not call 911. And we're getting into the details now, but it looks like thousands of 911 calls were not serviced because of the T-Mobile outage. These outages are clear examples of the inherent risk in technology transition. The aggregation of critical functions in single points of failure now has the potential to negatively impact not just a PSAP and the wire center or the call center that supports it, but multiple states of PSAPs. It's concerning, and it's really beyond concerning, and it's alarming. After the outage, we opened a public docket and sought information concerning the causes, effects, and implications of these multi-state outages. What some of those comments have revealed is that the outage, the docket is just on the multi-state outage, resulted from failures not of the primary provider's network, but by a technical problem in a third-party vendor equipment outside of the 911 service provider's line of sight. This outage is symptomatic of larger trends in communications reliability and resiliency, and is a warning to us all that we do not have the luxury of time to address issues as networks change under our feet. These issues need to be addressed now. Even if there is a decent understanding of the technical interdependencies of links in the end-to-end chain, and IP is allowing that end-to-end chain to be supported in amazing new ways, but not all in your county. We put public safety at risk where there is not a shared operational picture, a common situational awareness, or a clearly designated first-tier operations center empowered to coordinate rapid localization or rapid resolution of problems discovered by other providers. All of those niche elements have to work for call to completion. 20 years ago, you just had the carrier that had all the equipment that had to work. Now the new functionality that we're putting in place is great on a sunny day, but we've got to ensure that when a component part fails, we're able to rapidly identify and mitigate and ultimately restore around that. We've been exploring these issues and considering how to ensure that each participant in the 911 ecosystem fulfills its public trust to support the fundamental value of reliable 911 access. I'll tell you, though, the bottom line for us is we want to make sure that the carriers understand that they're to be held fully accountable. Yes, it is an ecosystem, but the buck stops with the carrier. The transition to IP does not and will not absolve providers' responsibilities for ensuring that 911 functions as our citizens expect and hope it to function. While providers are entitled to make decisions about their businesses, they are not entitled to do so in a manner that endangers 911 or puts the public at risk. We'll be issuing our report on the outage in the near future, and we'll want to continue to work with the states and communities to best understand how we get ahead of this phenomena in the tech transition environment. It's a good segue to the next topic, which is cybersecurity. The Commission's responsibility to promote public safety and network security is fundamental. Indeed, the Communications Act of 1934 tells us that the Commission was established for the purpose of, among other things, promoting the national defense and the safety of life and property. Translated to a more modern context, we must ensure that the nation's core communications infrastructure is secure and reliable. And cybersecurity presents some distinct challenges above and beyond our traditional security role for communications. As many of you know and have experienced firsthand, PSAPs regularly face denial of service attacks, spoofing, and or other cyber events that have the potential to prevent PSAPs from being able to receive and respond to emergency calls. Malicious activity negatively impacting operations in other sectors will certainly trend towards public safety if we don't aggressively take on a higher standard for cyber readiness. We've had this bubble of relative immunity for public safety communications from cyber threats because it's still unswitched architecture. As public safety comes off of switched, comes off of traditional RF, and into IP-based networks and services, public safety communications are no longer immune to the kind of cyber attacks that are now impacting retailers, impacting the financial sector, impacting other critical infrastructure. We've been working with the telecommunications sector to establish ways to evaluate cyber risk, and we encourage PSAPs to do the same. Specifically, we encourage PSAPs and the rest of the public safety community to adopt the cybersecurity framework published by the National Institute for Standards and Technology, or NIST, as a straightforward yet dynamic way to evaluate preparedness for cyber risk and to communicate that cyber risk between the organizations that need to support them. So the key thing about the cybersecurity framework is not only does it give you an ability to guide how you would evaluate your own organization, but it gives you the opportunity as you engage in contracts with service providers to be able to have that dialogue about the risk that they've accepted for the information services that they're going to be providing to your organization. It starts, though, in public safety with the public safety entities doing their evaluation first. So I encourage you to think about and take up the challenge of having each of your PSAPs use the cybersecurity framework. The issuance of the framework earlier this year has created that tremendous opportunity to make meaningful strides for both the private sector and public safety. And as we move forward together toward the IP and next-gen transitions, the Commission encourages PSAPs to seek out cost-effective ways to protect PSAPs from cyber events and educate personnel on how to both prevent and respond to such events. The same as commercial networks, public safety will face similar challenges. Like I said earlier, public safety entities must not wait to address cybersecurity issues during or at the end of this transition. Rather, they should begin now to develop the tools necessary to create and maintain secure public safety networks. One thing is certain, if a public safety entity fails to plan now, critical decisions will eventually be made for them, not by them. We need proactive management and mitigation of risk, not reactive response to problems after they have occurred. If you're a terrorist halfway around the world and you've been using cyber for some time now in part of your operations, you're just looking for an opportunity now to amplify a disaster or another attack by getting into public safety communications. We need to step up now and recognize that those halfway around the world attacks on our communications are now possible as we hook to IP. All of you here today, the state of California regulators, are in the best position to encourage public safety entities to review their weaknesses and assess their cyber vulnerabilities and risk mitigation. You play a key role in the implementation of the NIST framework at both the state and local level. The framework will facilitate improved engagement with the private sector and provide an end-to-end assessment of cyber risk to public safety communications, as cybersecurity means much more than just securing communications networks. We intentionally did not go down the road of developing prescriptive rules about firewalls and about you need to have so many cyber-trained people on watch. We believe that the best approach is a risk-managed one that empowers organizations to assess their risk and take a wide variety of steps to mitigate those risks. But that's all hinged on organizations doing that. And let me close today with FirstNet. And I'd like to talk a little bit about our work with FirstNet. It was great to have FirstNet lead off here. Congress has targeted $7 billion in long-term funding for FirstNet. A significant part of that money goes to California. The wireless auctions that the FCC will conduct will provide FirstNet with the funding it needs to build out and fill the gap identified by the 9/11 Commission over a decade ago. As we heard earlier, FirstNet is now in the process of conducting its first consultation meeting with states and territories. These are very important. Right now is our opportunity during the planning stages of both public safety initiatives to make the most efficient use of scarce resources for these two services. FirstNet and the ESI nets, which will support Next Generation 911, will require substantial bandwidth to support video and other multimedia, which can only be supported by secure broadband connections. More importantly, however, they'll need cyber security, they'll need directory management, they'll need identity management, they'll need a number of functions which in and of themselves can be very costly. Well, FirstNet and ESI nets are each self-contained and are now being built separately to support different things. They can share underlying infrastructure and services. FirstNet and ESI nets will incur significant operational expenses, largely due to the amount of bandwidth and backhaul but more so for those security services that will need to be provided to both. And this is where there's the opportunity for the two services to utilize at least some of the same infrastructure, personnel, and services. The more we can build out and operate them in parallel, and not in parallel on independent tracks, but in parallel together, we'll realize the same principles apply to the credentialing and identity management processes necessary to access and prioritize each of these networks, which will be far more secure and efficient if shared functions are coordinated. So it's not just that you'll save money by ensuring that you're doing cybersecurity together with the two networks. You'll actually have better security for both because of the ability to spot anomalies across that larger set of networks. Thus, there is a key opportunity for convergence in the build-out of FirstNet and the deployment of ESI nets that provide NextGen. But this benefit can only be achieved through cooperative planning. We need proactive stakeholders like yourselves to effectuate collaboration between all the players in the systems, and I'm sure that together you can make it happen. In conclusion, I'd like to thank you all for having me here today. It's an honor to be amongst those who have such an impact on the lives of Americans. I hope we can continue to work together to facilitate a seamless and secure transition to NextGen 911 and FirstNet. Thank you. I had slides. I have slides. They'll be available to you, but it just really would have slowed things down.
No worries at all. Were there any questions from the board? I have like a few comments, but I'll go ahead and start. First, thank you very, very much. Cybersecurity is one of those items that continues to concern me. With NIST developing their framework, I will call NIST and see if we can get a representative out to our next meeting to talk about the framework so we can start educating our PSAPs on what we need to be moving forward with. So I'll make that commitment to the board and see what we can do.
Donna Dodson is the lead at NIST.
Pardon me?
Donna Dodson is the lead for this at NIST, and her primary operations guy for it is Adam Sedgwick. Either Donna or Adam would be excellent to come out and to outline how to use the framework, and both are involved in the SysRix operationalization of the framework for the telco sector.
Okay, perfect. I will definitely reach out to her because I think that would be really good for the board. The other kind of comments I had on here, let me find them. I made little stars next to them. I need to figure out what piece. The example that you gave regarding hiring call takers in the PSAPs, I think, was a very good one for everyone to be just conscious of. If we start hiring people that know how to text now, then it won't be so foreign. I thought that was just a good thing to be thinking about. And then also,
you might want to contact Jennifer Green. There's a tool now, an HR tool, where you can do an automated screening for applicants, so they can take a test that will determine whether or not they're predisposed to work well in that kind of text NG911 rich environment.
Where would we get that?
Jennifer Green, who's the director of the PSAP in Washington, D.C.
Okay.
Yeah. And I know that. You know Jennifer, right?
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. And then also the connection with WIA. I really think we need to be bringing PSAPs more and more into the connection with WIA, and we don't have that many counties and cities in California that actually have signed up for WIA. The last I looked, I wanted to say we had roughly 15. So I will go back and take a look and see what we can do on that as well, because I know back east, and I don't remember the details, but I do know that during the major storms last year, there was church service in process, and everybody started getting their alerts, and they were able to get out of the church in time, and I mean, it saved so many lives. So it's just really important. I wish we had that type of advance warning for earthquakes in California, but we are working toward that as well. Sam?
Admiral, I want to thank you for coming and sharing firsthand to get FCC's perspective, or I should say the Commission's perspective. There were a couple things that I wanted to put on the table with you to the Commission. And the first is having spent 40 years in law enforcement, I've seen the well-intentioned results of legislation and moving forward. I think FirstNet is one of the first I've seen in 40 years where someone sat down and said, we're going to attack aggressively technology and solve some overarching problems nationwide, and to do that we are going to put some funding behind it. One of the biggest frustrations that I've seen in the almost 10 years that I've served on this board is that we are constantly chasing the business technology and business profits of the carriers because they move into realms of features before we have the infrastructure in place, number one, and number two, and most importantly, you alluded to, the funding. The bigger challenge, I think, for us in this state in moving to text to 911 is going to be the funding. And we dispensed with some business earlier in the meeting, and we do at every meeting, looking at where our funding is for 911. And the current funding model does not include the capacity to move to next-gen 911, let alone probably a for real integrated text to 911. I believe that the text to 911 pilots that are going on in the state, for the most part, are standalone or, for lack of a better term, a Band-Aid approach to be able to start receiving text to 911. So what I'd offer to you as a message back to the Commission, and I'm sure they hear a lot of this, is that as we move forward with these technologies, because I know right behind text to 911 is going to be, well, if I'm out here and I can transmit a video of this, why can't you receive that? And my mind goes crazy with all the thoughts of everything that's going to entail, not the least of which is the bandwidth. How are we going to receive that? How are you going to process that? How do you get that out to the field? How do you store it? All of those things. But the funding ability for us to try and at least stay pace with technology is a huge impediment to being first on the board. And so to what end, using the FirstNet model, it would be great that when somebody comes along and says, carriers, by this date you will be able to provide text to 911 as a carrier to all the local jurisdictions. That's great. They get to go out and tell everybody, as the big bell that I am, we've got this service available, and then the local communities are left with, well, why aren't you prepared to take this? So that is a unique challenge.
And that's very helpful feedback. I can tell you, having done IT within the federal government for decades, that if you're not careful, your IT budget will just get out of control, and you'll say, oh, what happened to my operational budget? It's all gone to IT. The key, which businesses know better than any, is IT actually should be a force multiplier for businesses. But in order for that to happen, you've got to go in, and as you add new functionality from IT, go back into your operations and look at where those savings really should be taken from. So it requires a degree of potentially reorganization, potentially tough calls made about sunsetting legacy kinds of things that is really, in my opinion, best done at the state and local levels. And that's why I believe it's appropriate to have the states make the determination of what's done with their 911 funds, have the states be able to set their rates, because the states are in a much better position to work with the counties and the jurisdictions on how to make those tough calls. But you're right. If we just keep adding IT, it will, and not change operations, we'll just have something that's unaffordable.
Well, I agree with you. I think the state should be deciding how to spend that money. But you're still going to have my layman guess of it, we're still going to have a 5 to 7 year transition period between our existing 911 system and NextGen. And so eventually when we do get in place with NextGen 911, our current funding model with maybe some tweaking will probably work to continue the maintenance of it. It's the huge capital outlay for the transition and having redundant systems for a while as we do that transition that's going to be most challenging.
It's so important that your governor, as you work with FirstNet and developing that state plan, ask all those questions, because there'll be $7 billion for startup, for CapEx, But if you're not asking about OPEX and about how you're going to sustain this thing, because FirstNet will fund itself. And if you're not in and comfortable with the details as to how FirstNet will fund itself and fund what you need in the PSAPs and among your first responders, then you'll be saddled with the bill afterwards. You know, whoa, what happened there? So I can't stress the importance of that engagement with FirstNet on the state plan.
And we've been told that, and we're looking forward to that. We'll look forward to more funding going to the 911 side of FirstNet, because it's sure not going to be enough as it is right now, obviously. Yeah. The second thing, and probably the last of my comments, as it relates to NIST, the Department of Justice, through the California Law Enforcement Telecommunication System, has been, which we refer to as CLETS, has been following NIST guidelines for years. And Joe Dominic, who I believe you know, is the security chief for the Department of Justice. And so we have somebody in-house that has a tremendous amount of experience with it. And we are faced with some significantly different challenges of that. I would offer not that California is the highest, but some of the challenges that we do face is that the CLET system has some of the highest security requirements for law enforcement and our partners, and thereby presents challenges when we want to bring other people into that system that can't meet that threshold. So one of the challenges as we move forward, as the Commission encourages NIST standards for security, that security goes down to the very essence of who you're hiring and what their backgrounds are. It increases the cost of recruitment, which I fully support, but it also suggests some challenges that are going to have to be looked at. Is what do you do with IT people that have been in place for 10 years and nobody ever did a background investigation on them to hire them? And now, because you are coming up to NIST standards and you're wanting to integrate systems into other systems, I'd offer that we have some great opportunities to look at how we're going to massage the NIST standards to be able to ensure that we maintain the security we need on our system.
Yeah, that's great feedback. And I'll tell you that well-performing cyber organizations, 90% of their costs, literally, are workforce. So if you're not thinking now about how you're going to organize for cybersecurity, then you're potentially going to wake up one day and say, "Oh my God, it's unaffordable, and we can't go back." So I think you want to challenge paradigms around how you do that security. Maybe it's not PSAP by PSAP by PSAP. Right? Maybe you want to group PSAPs. Maybe you want to do something statewide with FirstNet to ensure that they're performing some of the essential cybersecurity functions on behalf of all the PSAPs. But I encourage you to get into that level of kind of reorganization, and determine how you best organize for the workforce challenges of cybersecurity. I can't think of a state that's better postured to do this than California. I mean, you guys have the expertise among your citizens to do this right.
Yeah. Your comments bring up a question for Karen from me, which is, to what level has the governor been briefed on FirstNet, and what is the knowledge level that exists there? Will there be some benefit to a group of the advisory board members or the board from FirstNet meeting and talking about some of these issues that he brought up?
The National Governors Association has been briefing all the governors. I've put some briefing papers up to the governor's office as well. But the National Governors Association is making sure that all the governors have been briefed on FirstNet as we move forward. As we go through our workshops and the consultation, that's when we get into the level of information that we need to be looking at. And as we put our consultation information together, that's when we'll be providing the governor that level of detail for California.
Admiral Simpson, thank you again for your great overview of the FCC's perspective on public safety communications. And my question involves 911 accuracy. And as you pointed out, the technology is not the issue. We do have very good location accuracy technology out there. How do we incentivize the carriers to implement that technology? It's an expensive undertaking, and there certainly isn't a profit incentive to put that technology in place. And do you have any ideas on how that would work?
Well, yes, and there's two pieces of it. First, that while there may not be a profit motive for the carriers to focus on 911 location indoor accuracy, there is an emerging market for location-based services. As you go into some of the major malls today, you get some of them are playing with pop-up ads that will give you the coupon for the store that's 3 stores down from you, and we see some exciting developments in the commercial space for how location-based services are being used. That said, the degradation of location accuracy isn't something that can wait for the market to provide the answer in public safety. And we are working on the order, and what you saw in the NPRM was a test bed focused approach that seeks to have the carriers put in place test beds with a sample building morphology that is representative of all of the kind of building situations that they see across the country, and then have those test beds support a couple of PSAPs and get that right and demonstrate that they can achieve the new standards in and around the test beds, and then we'll link the proliferation of the capabilities across the rest of the United States once the test beds have developed the capability. And we are hopeful that NENA and APCO and other public safety organizations will come together with the carriers to generate some kind of voluntary approach to this. But I don't think it's something we can leave to chance. So we'll pace it if that pacing doesn't happen ahead of us.
Well, and this is the interesting thing about the question he brought up in your answer is you have to wonder what the real impetus is as to why they aren't moving forward with it when you have third-party applications already that are crowdsourced traffic that show your location as you move down the freeway, giving live information about your speed and hazards ahead, and there are apps that are already sending us coupons as I walk into the store. There's programs like Google Earth, which scarily shows where I'm at in my house. So it begs the question to me, truly, why are the carriers or the tech industry not taking it to the next step?
Yeah, it's a great question, and there are times when regulators regulate best by not regulating, by just convening the industry and society towards a goal. There are times, though, when regulators regulate best by providing a clear regulatory clarity around expectations, and we're prepared to go either way. But the imperative is now for this, and so it is a high priority for us, and we'll be watching this closely in the fall and be prepared to bring something before the Commission at the end of the fall timeframe.
Any other questions? Okay, well, thank you very much.
Thank you.
I really appreciate the presentation today.
Thank you, and thanks for the extended time.
Oh, yeah. No worries. So we'll move on to our next agenda item, which is new business, and we have none. So we will go on to agenda items for future meetings. Like I had mentioned before, I'll make sure we have NIST and cybersecurity framework. We'll reach out to NIST to have Donna come out and give a presentation. I also want to add, as we discussed earlier, the LRPC going forward, so we can make some decisions and have agenda items on that. And then I need to add one other item, which is the Bagley-Keene Act. We just need to go back over the Bagley-Keene. There had been some changes made that we just need to be all aware of, and it's been about 2 years since we've had that presentation, and that's what guides us as the board.
In regards to cybersecurity, OES has the California Cybersecurity Task Force. It might be interesting to have somebody from that group come and talk about it and find out maybe what discussions are already happening around PSAPs from that group, because it's a really large and diverse group of stakeholders who are already doing a lot of that work.
I'll reach out there as well. Thank you.
And Karen, at the November meeting, will we have the dates for 2015 so that we can plan ahead, hopefully.
Yes, we will.
Thank you.
Paul? Yes, we will. Thank you. Okay, were there any other agenda items for future meetings? Okay, then announcements. I just wanted to reiterate we have our workshop with the Office of Emergency Communications on FirstNet on August 26th, town hall meeting in Fairfield September 24th, and a town hall meeting in Santa Ana on September 30th. Both are regarding FirstNet. Are there any other announcements? Are there any public comment today?
So.
Okay, with that, the meeting is adjourned. Thank you all very much.